What's going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, host of the How To Show, where we talk about optimizing life, money, and happiness one how-to at a time. Let's set up a scenario if we can. You're in your front yard and you look down the street and you see a whole lot of cars parked and people walking around, and there's a sign in the yard, and you've come to realize that your neighbors are selling their house. And if you're anything like me, the last year for real estate has been an entirely different world than anything that we've seen in the last decade or more. And maybe you want to be involved with that. Maybe you want to be somebody who helps people either buy or sell real estate. That is typically known as a real estate broker. And today we're going to walk through how to get your real estate license in Indiana so that you can do that. And I want to talk about this video because I have a feeling that somebody watching may not realize that it is not maybe as challenging to get your real estate license and to get a real estate career off the ground as you might have initially thought once you dig into the details of exactly how it looks. So the first thing we need to talk about are the prerequisites. These are the non-negotiables. The state of Indiana says that you have to do these two things before you can even be qualified to start this process. And thankfully, they're not super challenging. Number one is you have to be 18 years of age. And number two is you have to have either a high school diploma or some sort of equivalent. Those are the baselines that the state of Indiana sets up, and so the expectation is that you have both of these things accomplished before you decide to start a real estate career. And so the next piece to this is the education component. And in the state of Indiana, this is broken down into a 90-hour pre-licensing course. And from there, you've got a couple of options as to how to get this done. You can either do it in person, and you can actually take a course, or you can do it online. There are a handful of different options to do either one of these things. If you're looking to do it in person, there are different locations across the state that can offer this. For the in-person version, typically it's set up either two ways. It's either set up full-time, where you're 8 to 5 or something like that during the day, and that setup lasts maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and you just go straight Monday through Friday as if it were a job. Or the more flexible version probably meets a couple of nights a week, maybe for 2-3 hours until you've hit that 90-hour threshold that way. That takes a decent bit more time than doing it straight through. But it provides for more flexibility in the event that you're working some sort of other job on top of trying to get this education done. And to continue with that flexibility model, the online versions of these courses, you can complete them anytime you want. You can do them in the morning, evening, night, after hours, middle of the night, whatever is best for you. There are pros and cons of both setups. The most glaring one in my mind is that if you actually take a class, that class is taught by a professor, and therefore you get to ask that professor questions, where that sort of setup may not be as apples to apples if you're doing it online. Just something to think about there. The class itself is not particularly set up to teach you how to buy or how to sell real estate, or to teach you to help somebody else do those things. It's really a class that teaches you the license law of Indiana, the basics of real estate theory, and to stop yourself from doing things that would get you sued. That's generally what the class is set up as. And the class is set up in a structure that it maybe has 2 tests, 3 tests, but ultimately you have to have a 75% passing score on all of the tests in order to keep going. The classes cost anywhere from $300 to roughly $700, and so that's what the education component really looks like in terms of real estate. Not maybe as dense or as arduous as you might have thought, but we'll keep going on. We'll talk about the exam portion at the state level. So once you've passed your licensing exam test, you have to take a test basically issued by the Indiana Professional Licensing Association that will set you up to obtain a real estate broker's license. The test is run by PSI, which is a testing service that is completely computer-based. In the pre-COVID world, it would be the scenario where you would walk into the testing center, you would give them all of your things in your pockets. They would give you a pencil, a piece of scratch paper, maybe some headphones. They would sit you in front of a computer station, and for 90, 120, 150 minutes, however long it was, you would take the test. You would walk out of there knowing whether or not you had completed the test with a passing grade or not. In the now new after COVID world, there may be some slight modifications to that, but the general idea is the same. When you take this test, it's going to talk about the typical real estate theory as well as the specific Indiana license law. Same information that was taught in your class. And in this test, you also have to get a score of 75% in order to obtain your real estate license. So the test costs $53. It costs $53 each time you take it. So in the event you don't pass it the first time, you have to pay that fee again the next time you go to take it. But there's no reason to really stress about that because there are options to study. You can study your materials that you learned in class. There are different test prep services that are online. CompuCram is one of the more popular ones, and for a small fee, they basically give you what they think is the best test prep strategy to get you through this course, or to get you through the test and ultimately only have to take it once. So let's assume you pass the test, you have the documentation in place to go and get your real estate license. However, there is an intermediate step that you need to check off before you can do that, and that is deciding where you are going to place your license. As a brand new agent in Indiana, or a brand new broker, I would say, you cannot hold your own license. You need a brokerage to hold it for you, and you basically affiliate with that brokerage. And figuring out what brokerage type to affiliate with is an entire video series on its own. I am not going to dive real deep into that except for to consider basically a handful of things. What are the upfront costs of joining that brokerage? What are the training opportunities with that brokerage? And what does the economic structure look like in terms of compensation for that brokerage? You want to look at these three things in specific, and you want to look at a whole laundry list of others, but ultimately you have to pick a brokerage to affiliate with before you go and apply for your license. So let's say you've done that, you've picked XYZ brokerage, you're going to go and affiliate with them. Now you can go to the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency's webpage and download the application to obtain your real estate broker's license. You fill out all the information. You include a check for $60 to apply for your brokerage. You include in an envelope with that the proof that you passed both the class and the state exam. You stick all that information, you send it out to the IPLA, which is in downtown Indianapolis. And if you've met all the requirements, they approve your license, and you are now legally eligible to be a real estate broker in Indiana. And so to break all that down, you've got a handful of different costs associated with it, but typically speaking, for less than, I'd say, $2,500 on the high end, you have the ability to generate yourself an opportunity to create an income that in some instances may be able to either replicate or exceed the median income or the median full-time job in the state of Indiana. And so I just want to paint this picture as some people may be interested in thinking about this as a career opportunity. The steps to getting in the door are not as arduous as you might have thought. However, becoming good at the craft is a whole nother story, potentially a whole nother series later on in the history of the How To Show. But for now, wanted to break down exactly what it takes to get your real estate license in Indiana. That's all for this episode of the How To Show. Hopefully you got some value from this, and if by chance you are not watching this from the state of Indiana, the meat and potatoes of this episode is probably still applicable to you. However, you'll have to do your own research in terms of what the specific steps are for your state. And hopefully this can get you thinking about the types of things you may encounter in different states as well. If you got any value from this video, or you know somebody who may be interested in taking this sort of a step, share the video with them and hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm to let them know that this is a video worth watching and a video worth sharing with others. If you like the content that I put out on a weekly basis, that is really awesome, and I continue to do it every Wednesday. So if you hit the subscribe button, you'll be the first to know about those as they come up. Hit the notification bell, you'll learn about them as well there. If you like podcasts better than YouTube, you can find me on the podcast player of your choice by searching Anthony Drew Gary or The How To Show. It will come up either way. If you have any feedback for the show, leave me a comment. Leave me a comment letting me know that you watched it, that you liked it, that you hated it, that you had an idea for a different type of show. That's how I get a lot of the different material that I talk about on the show, and that's how I get my guests as well. So if you want to be a guest and you have something that you think would be fun to talk about, let me know that. Until next time, this is Anthony Drew Gary, host of The How To Show, signing off.